Shalom, shalom, Mishpachah. This is Yerd Yao checking in. I wanted to talk to you about world Hebrewisms, y'all. And I guess I've talked about this on this channel before. And with this understanding, I guess it comes from, a good place, and not the place that it's going to seem like it comes from. And so I will tell you straight away, this is going to sound racist, you guys. When people hear this, they often think, oh, well, you're just assigning all good things around the world to yourself. And, it's absolutely going to sound that way. But I don't believe it is. I think that you can make the case for the origin of all these concepts that I'm getting ready to talk to you about now being in Hebraic culture and from a biblical understanding, you guys. And so the way that I've always looked at it is in terms of words. Do you see what I'm saying? The dominant culture will have an influence on world society in profound ways. Do you see what I'm saying? Because there's a people group on the earth that has in them the spirit of prophecy, in them the spirit of Elohim, and in them the spirit of knowledge and wisdom, right? All of the seven spirits that are before the Mashiach are the spirits that should be running through the children of Israel. Some of the aspects of of the way that Elohim is spoken about, as far as being the author of knowledge, the author of wisdom, the author of truth. Some of those things, some of that light should shine through in Hebraic culture, and it should be all over the world, because Hebrews have been scattered all over the world with the truth, regardless of whether they had Mashiach or not. There is an element of all Hebraic worship that comes from the source, and more so than any other culture or people can claim. And so anytime we see words that pertain back to Hebrew culture, no matter what culture you find them in, you're going to know, and it's going to be obvious, right? It's going to be almost a one for one as far as the word, the meaning of the word, its value to the culture, and its history in Hebraic understanding. Do you see what I'm saying? And so I'm going to give you a lot of words here, and I hope that I can remember all of them when I go back and I do the definitions for them in Hebrew and in English and in some of the other languages that they are in. And so I'm just going to go over some English words that we found to actually be Hebrew words. I think I went over this in the Great Britain video. So some of the English words that we found to actually be Hebrew words are the English word for walk is walak, which means and go, right? Which is in Hebrew. The English word yell, of course yell, is yalal in Hebrew, and literally it means to yell. It means to holler, right? What are some of the other ones? Some of the other ones that we found even the other day, and I've actually been thinking about some other ones as I've been thinking about this concept. One of the ones we know to be true just off bat is the term guy. Do you see what I'm saying? The term guy. And so we think of a guy as that person over there. Hey, who's that guy, right? So a guy is not necessarily a person that you know. It's like that guy over there, right? If you know who he is, he's not necessarily a guy. That's Andy. Oh, who is Andy? Andy's that guy. Do you see what I'm saying? So you're identifying him as a guy, right? And it's usually a male, right? So there's some connotation, but that term guy, being an unidentified person, is synonymous with the term goy, as in goyim, as in Gentiles, as in heathen, as in someone from the nations that you would not recognize. Oh, that goy. Do you hear it? That's a 1-for-1 English to Hebrew, right? And so we know that there are several of these because of the proximity of the Hebrews and the English so many years ago, right? So it'd be about 1,500 years ago when the two cultures were overlapping. And we talked about that in the other video. The English culture would be a developing culture, and the Hebraic one would have been an ancient one. So of course the English would have borrowed from the Hebrew in all of these different and profound ways, like the term thou being, very, very intrinsic to ancient English, and then them having to change the sound of the Y into a J, to change the language far enough to get out of that old Hebrew understanding that they learned. Do you see what I'm saying? And so we can see several words like that. But there are words that are also in other cultures too, right? And I was just going over a couple of them in my mind earlier today. One of them is samurai, you guys. Samurai means a guardian. Or samari means my guard. And what were the samurai? They were the guards of the king in ancient Japan. I think it's ancient Japan, right? So samar is the same as shamar. That would be a samurai. Shamar means to guard, right? Guard the commandments. That's what you do, is you guard the commandments. You don't just keep them, you guard them, right? So that is an important understanding that is both in Japanese society and in Hebraic society. A shamari is a samurai, a guardian. So the term chi, which is in Eastern religion, it's the life force that is in your body. You've got these pools of chi in Hinduism, where if you perform specific, functions and get into specific positions, you can open up and block your chi from. All of that is just, the witchcraft form of what's in the Bible. The Bible talks about the chi. Chi and chi are the same thing. This is what Elohim did to Adam. He breathed the breath of chi, of life. The life force into Adam is his chi, his chi. It's spelled chet yod, literally life. In fact, Ho is, and I say Ho because Eve's name is actually Ho, not Hoa, but Ho is the term that comes from chi, which means life giver, which means liver, the living one who is the mother of all, the life force of all. Hey, okay, I'll be off in a minute here. Do you need me to stop now? Yeah, but I'm doing another one. So the understanding that we have of that chi that comes from this quote unquote Eastern understanding actually goes back to the Garden of Eden with Adam, and Adam being breathed the breath of life into him and becoming a living soul, a chi nafesh, Do you see what I'm saying? The life force being put inside of them, exactly the same as chi in these Eastern mystic religions. You see what I'm saying? This is how you know that some of the greatest parts of all religion, or the founding aspects or elements of these religions, are Hebraic in nature, you guys. And that's what I also wanted to talk about. That word in particular, this term, this understanding in particular is what I wanted to talk about. You guys are familiar with the term karma, right? You guys are familiar with karma. What does karma mean? Does karma come from the Bible? No, right? Right? So the term karma, if you think about karma, that's another Eastern word that has its own connotation to it. Karma is the concept that the things you do will come back to you and will bite you in the end. Like, the concept of, if you dig a hole, you might as well dig one for yourself too, because the thing that you put out into the universe for to happen to somebody else is actually going to end up happening to you. That's what's called karma. You'll see on the internet these videos that are called instant karma videos, and they're from a guy or a girl being a jerk, and then something painful happens to them or embarrassing happens to them. The person that tries to push the other person into the pool, and they move out of the way fast enough and they themselves fall into the pool. This is the concept of karma. The thing that you do will come back to you, whether it's good or whether it's bad. But most of the time it's understood in a negative connotation. So that term karma, we have to understand when we see like a missing syllable in the middle of a word, that's a Hebraic function. That we know that abdi in Arabic means abadi, which is my servant, right? But they'll say abdi. They would remove that middle syllable. We know they do the same thing in Hebrew as well, even in the Masoretic Nikud vowel pointing system, late style Hebrew. They're removing that middle syllable, like Migdal means tower, right? Migdal is tower. It's not Migadal, it's Migdal. So tower, right? It's not Hakama, it's Hakma for wisdom, right? They remove that middle syllable. So that same form is in karma. It's not karama, it's karma. But what does karama mean in Hebrew? You see what I'm saying? So that term haram is the term for the ban, you guys. It's called the ban. That's the way that I was taught it when I was in college. That this term haram, like the Arabic word for what you can eat, which is halal, and what you can't eat, which is haram. This is under the ban. Same concept, except that haram ban is a religious ban, you guys. Like no pork is a haram, right? So it can be in any sense of the word. So haram was also dedicated to the Canaanites. The Canaanites had to be killed, from the least to the greatest of them, even to their cattle. They were put under the ban. Their lives were haram. Do you see what I'm saying? Their lives were haram. This was a commandment that they destroyed the Canaanites, that they killed them all. And remember, this was a commandment that was broken, that became a snare to Israel because they broke this commandment. Do you see what I'm saying? That they were put under the ban, under the haram. So what does karma and haram have to do with each other? You guys, that k sound is also a k. A h is k, as in ak, right? So when you say ak, some people just say ak, right? So that h is also can sound a lot like a c or a k too, like karma, like harma. So harama. You see what I'm saying? You hear it? So what does one have to do with the other? Why were the Canaanites put under the ban, you guys? The Canaanites were put under the ban, under the karma, because their sins had reached unto heaven. The things that they did required an action, and the action was destruction. So since that they were polluting the earth in such a way, whether it be murder, kill, or whatever, destruction, witchcraft, or whatever it was, their karma was up. It was time for them to receive their ban, you guys. This is the Hebraic influence over the world. It is a real thing, and it is a thing that proves that the true religion comes from Elohim in the Hebraic scriptures, because it points out to all of us the fundamental elements of all religion, from Shamari in Japan to Chi in Tibet, in India, to karma in the same place, where all these supposed unique and individual religions sprang up independent from one another, not utilizing any concepts one to another. But then we see the terminology that has Hebrew underpinnings, you guys. And then we see that Hebrew word turned into something different, like spun off into a tangent and a former shadow of what it once meant, you guys. This is how we know the scriptures are real, when you start finding ancient Hebrew concepts twisted in modern religion. Shalom, shalom, you guys.